In order to stop the communist agenda, we need to get rid of the big banks.
It's really amazing the things that Republicans will say when they don't realize what they're saying.
Karl Marx, no one knew who he was until the big banks distributed
Right.
all of his literature.
Right, right.
Yeah. So in order to get rid of communism, we need to get rid of the big banks.
Yeah.
Get rid of big pharma.
Right,
What else? Big tech.
right.
Uh,
Yeah, and it's like
land like these like landlords that like are coming in and buying like hundreds of properties. You don't even know what
right,
corporation.
like China is doing it, and Bill Gates.
Zillow.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people here are very fed up and they're ready to collectivize and sort of seize the means of production.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's why I support unions so much. You know,
Well,
you wanna-
it's funny. I work for actually not this shirt, the other shirt I had an earlier for a company not too far from here called Liberty Pump, non-union. They let the owners of the company sold a third of the company to the employees. So the employees have ownership of it, which is a lot better. And
Well, they're collectivizing.
right,
It's cooperative.
it's an ESOP.
Yeah, the workers own the means of
And then
production.
their families work there, their dad, the sons work there, and that's typically where America started. A lot of families did that.
So this TikToker by the name of Walter Masterson did a really great job here of pointing out something that I think is important to understand for several reasons. The first reason is the fact that Republicans will actually support a lot of pretty radical leftist policies if you just ask them about the policy, and even if you try to frame it from like a right-wing idea. And the reason for that is actually pretty clearly described by Marx, which is the fact that if somebody is an employee, they will have sort of the working class proletariat mindset, which is you just kind of instinctively understand that you're producing more value for your boss than they are actually paying you, and that maybe something about capitalism is deeply unfair. But the other layer to this is one that's also very important to understand, because why are there so many Republicans who are willing to support policies like this in isolation, but somehow have this just virulent negative reaction to the left, or the idea that any of their own ideas are the left? Well, the reality behind that is that a lot of these Republicans quite literally believe Nazi conspiracy theories. They unironically believe that instead of capitalism causing the problems, instead of it being something like a profit motive that's driving people's behavior to make as much money as possible, to accumulate wealth and monopolize industry, and squeeze the working class for as much as they possibly can, no, instead of it just being the system of capitalism that does that, in their mind, the reason why capitalism isn't working is because there's an evil conspiracy, not of rich people broadly, but specifically in their mind, they blame Jewish folks. At the end of the day, it all comes down to a lot of these anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, which ultimately have some of their origin in literal Nazi Germany. That's why you see a lot of these Republicans fear-mongering about queer folks and trying to say that there's some secret agenda to turn everybody trans or gay or something, and pushing the Great Replacement theory, which obviously is this ridiculous racist conspiracy theory that believes that Jewish people are orchestrating the replacement of white people, and it's just fundamentally absurd, but it's also incredibly and extremely harmful, because in their mind, it's not that the system of capitalism is flawed. It's that there are specific rich people that are secretly, maliciously plotting against them. And those conspiracy theories are why they are so willing to support other billionaires and millionaires who are exploiting their labor, and the reason why they are so willing to support extreme reactionary policies that would very obviously hurt themselves. So in some sense, the Republicans are acknowledging these problems that exist under capitalism, but they're blaming them entirely on marginalized people and creating this fantasy where marginalized people are somehow the most powerful people in society that just want to control their lives. And that's why they do so much fear-mongering about the left. And what is terrifying about this is it fuels a lot of very explicitly violent behavior from the right. Even right now, there is an ongoing harassment campaign towards a children's hospital in Boston, a children's hospital where right-wingers are sending death threats because they think that that hospital is doing gender reassignment surgeries on children, which, by the way, it's not. That's not really a thing that is happening. And so really, all of these things are connected. The more capitalism capitalism makes things worse for everybody in the United States, the more influential right-wingers need to push ridiculous, over-the-top, nonsensical, racist, bigoted conspiracy theories, because those conspiracy theories are really the only thing stopping these people from taking a step back and realizing that maybe perhaps capitalism is the problem, that maybe perhaps they shouldn't be blaming marginalized people. But these right-wing influencers basically depend on the baseline racism that exists within the United States to fuel this mass terror campaign from the political right in order to uphold our current system of capitalism, which really is always how fascism has worked. It is basically the most reactionary among capital, claiming power for themselves to such an extreme degree that they exterminate any type of political opposition. And at that point, then you kind of find yourself a little bit stuck because a lot of the political opposition have been killed by the fascists, which is exactly why they go on the mass terror campaigns that they do. And so the problem with this rising explicitly fascist movement in the United States is that we are seeing this escalation from the political right of violence. But all of this fundamentally ties together. Most working class people today recognize that our system is unfair, and right-wing grifters are running around selling conspiracy theories in order to get people to not think about what the real problem is. And unfortunately, those conspiracy theories are very easy to sell to people who already have a lot of racist assumptions about the world. This is why, in order to truly challenge capitalism and improve the lives of working class people, we need to challenge that underlying baseline racism, and we also need to challenge the principal beliefs about capitalism that cause people to believe ridiculous things about how it should theoretically work. Because it turns out that the extreme inequality and the monopolization that we're seeing today are the inevitable result of capitalism, despite what random right-wingers will tell you.